afternoon. Good afternoon. Cody, do you want to start us off?
I think you need no introduction at this point. Let's just jump right into what you've got.
Awesome. Terrific. Well, I am so excited to finish up. This is the third part of a three-part series. Who would have ever thought when we first started talking about this that we could talk for three sessions? This one we actually extended. So it's going to go from the 3 to the 4:30. And I got to tell you, there's more for us to talk about. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share with everyone. For those of you that have never had the chance to meet Kay, she is our everything, right? So she is going to be here. Any technical difficulties, any questions, anything like that, she's here to monitor. So be sure to put those into the chat group. And then we're going to get started. So I'm hoping that by this part of your time with EXP Synergy Community, you have seen the commitment of Cody Lewis, right? When I came to EXP, he and I went to coffee, and I asked him, "What's your dream?" There's a whole other story to that. However, I believe what you're seeing in real life is Cody's dream, like a place where we collaborate together, where we use cooperation in a really powerful way to create impact and that we're better. And, we have faced some things together in Synergy. We have faced COVID. We did it together. And when I was thinking about significance, what's happening right now in our industry is equally as significant as COVID was. And so I want you to know that as we're going through, the leadership of Synergy takes very serious your success. How do you thrive in any economic environment? How do you see these changes as opportunities? And so as we get going today, we want you to hear that piece of it. We're not afraid. We are not in fear, that we truly see this as an opportunity. And if after this class you still are wondering, get with one of us. We will dig in with you in your business for as long as it takes. I was working with Diana today on a concept, and I could tell after talking one time she didn't get it, two times she didn't get it, three times, and we just stuck with it. And I looked at her, I said, we might have to walk away from this and come back to it. However, that fourth time we did it, she got it. And so as we're going through this today, it would not be surprising for you not to get it all. So dig in, come with us, stand with us, ask questions. We don't care how many times it takes for it to connect to you and to build that business. I got to get on the right place. And so with that, I want to show you a video. I think some of you may have seen this video before. However, I think it's really appropriate because the question I want you to be thinking about right now is, where do you want to be 5 years from now in your real estate business? What do you want that to look like? And I'm just hoping, hold on one second, that the audio is going to play. I'm just really give me 1 second. Because my Zoom's not showing. Okay, let's see if this is going to work. Can you hear it? That audio is not working. I'm just going to move past that just because. 1 second. Technical difficulties. There we go. All right, so what can you expect from today? It's just such an important conversation because there's two things I'm going to deliver on today for you. The first one is how to make sense of 1,000 different ideas. I don't know how many presentations you've watched on this since we first got this news, but I'm pretty sure that I have watched at least 25. And out of each one of those, walked away with a lot of key points. However, as we start watching them today, it sounds like they're saying the same things over and over. So today, we're going to take that from a concept into actual applications, into actual systems and ways to use it to get hired and to get paid. Then the next thing I have to tell you is that tomorrow we could be shifting. We could be going in a completely different direction tomorrow, and we'll let you know how that turns out. And so, if there's one thing, two things right now that we really want you to be is curious and open. Diana, when I said this, she's working with me today. And when I said, that statement, she's like, wait a minute, you think it could really change? Yeah, I do. And it will. There's things that will work and there's things that won't work. And as we got started, lots of ideas came up. Some have floated to the top. I mean, documents, I've already done this presentation 3 times because new documents have happened. Cody has been such a great partner to me. From time to time, me calling him frustrated and him talking me off a ledge, and other times me calling excited out of my mind. Oh my gosh, look what we could do. And so I just want to thank him so much. And the most important thing we're going to deliver on today is that this is absolutely an opportunity for synergy because we are different. We take opportunities and we take lemons and we make them into lemonade, and glasses aren't half empty, they're refillable. We've got all the sayings, but our walk matches them. These aren't just things we say, these are things we do. And so we want you to know that that is exactly what is available as we get started here today. So we have created resources for you. So this whole presentation we put in PowerPoint, you're going to see links through it to everything we're talking about, and we're going to send the PowerPoint presentation to you. Right? I was listening to Riz Media yesterday, and I have to tell you, there was such a sense of pride that I had in our company when Leo said, we're giving it all away. Our toolboxes for our buyers, to our sellers, contracts, everything, we're giving it away. And I thought, wow, that is the kind of company that I want to align myself with. And so as you get this, give it away. Give it to anyone because we win together. We're in a place of abundance. And by the way, this could be a great opportunity to start talking to people about what EXP has to offer, how you get connected, everything from T cards to training, everything from EXP to synergy to teams. We have it right here. And you just think most of us are just scratching the surface on what's available. So this could be a great way for you to start a conversation about joining us at Synergy and EXP. So I have the link for you for the NAR settlement facts. I have to encourage you to look at it over and over. It changes all the time. And so what was there yesterday may be different tomorrow. And that's where we're going to continue to grow. And I think that's been some of the frustration I've had with Cody. Wait a minute, yesterday it didn't say that. And he's like, well, it does today. So keep that one. We also have the link for you for the Riz Media video that was done yesterday that Leo had some great leadership. There were some great ideas. There were differing opinions, but a way of collaboration that I was really proud of our industry. Look, if you have not taken a look at the Realtor Toolbox, you've got to go to our YouTube channel. We have so much information in there. Every time we do one of these, Cody and Ursula go through, they take the time to put them on the YouTube channel. These are session 1 and session 2. So we'll have the links in there for you as well, so that you can take a look, because this is the 3-part series. EXP's Buyer Toolkit. Oh my gosh, wealth of information. I am going to use it in collaboration with the conversation that we're having today. If you can imagine EXP's toolkit, buyer toolkit, though, it's a national toolkit. And so not everything in that toolkit we think exactly matches what we need in Clark County, what we need in Nevada. And so, specifically, Clark County and Nevada, we have some opinions that differ than this toolbox. However, know that you have opportunities to use whatever you want. You're going to see a couple of places where we took a different approach. It does not mean that EXP's approach is wrong. And they really use this concept, and we hear it over and over, and you should write it down and you should start to acclimate to the concept: customer friendly, client friendly, consumer friendly. And, we, as a board of directors, we have some opinions on how friendly do we really have to get. Like, are we kissing cousins here? I mean, what's happening here? And so there's some of it that we think we want to see a more contractual obligation. And so we made some decisions to move in alignment with LVR. Once again, lots of great information though in that toolkit. And then we also have the link for you for the LVR updated policy. You've got to be checking the MLS. You've got to be looking in these messages, and we've got a couple of them that we're going to bring to the conversation today. So
Denise, can I just mention something really quick right here that you said?
yeah,
So yeah, there are also, even though we as a board of directors, we feel like the LVR forms right now are better for us to use than, in some cases than the ones that we've been given by EXP, because they're more national and LVR is more focused. There are things within the LVR forms that we also think need to be different. And as you see those things, or as you're struggling with how something's worded, maybe it's making it difficult to have a conversation with a client, because this client friendly thing is really important to us and to LVR. Then give us that feedback, because we're providing that to the forms committee and saying, we suggest this change and that change. And some of the changes we've suggested have been implemented already. And we expect that some of the changes that we've been pushing for after that will also be implemented, especially if enough of us ask for the same thing in the forms committee. So please make us aware of what those are so that we can be a unified voice with LVR.
well, and Cody's done such a great job of bringing our voices together and getting us in front of people that can make change. So, when you get the PowerPoint presentation, you'll just click on these hyperlinks and they'll take you right where you need to go. This is the Riz Media video that was done yesterday: compensation and commission strategies. We're going to talk about some verbiage. We'll have also the links for both of the toolboxes. When you get the PowerPoint, you'll just be able to click here. When you're there, check out the other videos. I mean, the other things that we're talking about, these are ways to build businesses that will thrive in any economic environment. So let's get into, I want to do something a little bit different than maybe you've seen this happen before. We want to talk about what are your questions that you currently have. What are the questions you currently have? Then we'll be able to drive through the answers to those questions throughout the presentation versus waiting to the end. So literally we are 36 hours away. Come off of mute. What questions are on your mind right now as it relates to the NAR settlement and the actual transition into every single buyer must be under a buyer rep BBRA? So what questions do you have? And I'm not afraid to voluntold people. I'm not afraid of any of that. So let's hear you.
Start. I'm back. Hi.
Hey, Marissa, welcome back.
Sorry, I'm a little jet lagged. Got in at midnight last night, but I thought I'd hop on the call. I've
Awesome.
been keeping in touch and looking at everything. Here's my question, going to what Cody said. I feel like I'd love to merge documents if we could. And my question was, is there a reason why Synergy Board um, wouldn't maybe create a set of forms? Or are you worried about liability and need a lawyer for it?
Just unable to do it. So EXP won't let you generate a form. So we have had forms generated, sent to EXP for their approval, And so then they have been endorsed by the company. And so we certainly can use those. So we're going to talk more about that when we get into forms. It's an excellent question, but just to answer that up front.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'll also just mention that we've decided that what we're going to do is we're going to see how much we can drive the process through LVR, because if it's coming through LVR, there's so many benefits. The way it flows through transaction desk easier. It opens up all these tools that we have available to us if it's coming through LVR. So our first approach will be that. If we just can't get something that we think is workable that way, then Spencer, our Nevada broker, has already told me that he will get us an audience with whoever we need to try to push that through LVR. And then if that doesn't work, then we will create our own form that will be like an EXP Nevada form, that we will then be able to make available to whomever.
Yeah. So it's early on. We want to see how, and it's changing. We're going to see that more. Thank you for that question. Great question. We'll keep talking about it. Who else?
Having said that, Denise, can I also add though that if there's a specific area that you have a question or you think that there's something that isn't worded quite right, we probably have a clause that we've already developed to address that under additional provisions. And so whatever it is, be sure you bring it up to us so that we might have a solution for you.
Yep. And be sure though, you are not attorneys. You are, Pam Jungi brought this up on our last SBOD call, and it's super important that you do not unilaterally go in and put clauses out. Let's roundtable those. Let's talk about them. The meeting of the minds, the amount in our community of experience is incredible. So let's keep talking about that. Thank you, Steve. What are the other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So regarding the new forms, yesterday on that RIS discussion, I heard Leo talking about how EXP has basically created all their own forms. And I think you touched on that in the beginning. And then Cody talked about transaction desk. I mean, how much are we going to have like a central place where we get our forms? Is that going to be clear to us?
Yep. And it's going to be clear today.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. What else? That was Katie, right?
Yes, that was me. I actually have one other question, and it came from yesterday too. They talked a lot about how the commission can't come from the other broker and it has to come from the seller. But it seems to me like on our settlement statements, it's all coming from the seller anyway, because it's coming through title. Is that something that is that not Nevada specific, or is that not really important for us?
We're going to talk about that as well.
Thank you.
Great question. Who's next? Oh, we thought y'all were going to come with like a bazillion questions at us. Okay.
I think these buyer brokers are great. Agreements are the greatest thing. I'm enjoying using them. I don't find that the buyers really look at them that hard, and it's a matter of, if you want me to work for you, this is what we have to do, and kind of weeds out the people that aren't serious. So I'm pretty happy with them. I really enjoy using them, and it kind of, I tell them they can fire me anytime. It's not a union job, And
I've not heard that, Micah. That is
no, it's
not a union job.
No, it's not a union job. If you're not happy with me, you can fire me. All you got to do is tell me about it. So it's kind of an anti-ghosting agreement is what it is between us. And I say, I'm working hard for you. I deserve to be told if you're going to fire me.
Well, I think one of those statements that tie to that too, Micah, is could you work for free? No. I'm saying to the client. When I'm saying, right. Yeah, the answer is no.
If they're a charity, I might do pro bono work, but I'm not going to do pro bono work for someone who's not a charity.
Yeah. Well, buyers have paychecks. That's how come they're being able to buy. So I love where you're going with it.
Yeah, everybody thinks I should get paid, and if I run into somebody that doesn't, then I don't want to work for them.
I totally and to that point, jumping on what Micah said, like when I was in a different industry, managing talent for client representation in showbiz, you would never, that's why I always use the buyer's brokerage since 2013, because I didn't know how to work without a contract with somebody. But they're written differently, and they're written like service agreements, which are renewable. unless they're canceled and there's a specific, 30 days prior to the renewal period that you can cancel it, and kind of like a PM agreement would be. But my question is, in this cancellation effort, my feeling is just like I really enjoy the change, because how many times have you gone out and showed property, and at the end of the day they just don't pull the trigger on buying something? And I kind of feel like this is an opportunity to have like some coverage on fees as far as for time spent.
Yeah, 100%.
So if somebody wants to cancel, I mean, can that be worked into an agreement where?
So we'll talk about that. However, I will tell you in general right now, that is not what EXP is doing. They don't have ways for collecting and distributing those kind of funds. So that's not really where we're going to spend our focus today, but we could talk about it too.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, no problem.
Awesome. All right. So now if you have additional questions as they're coming up, will you put them in the chat? So Kay is going to be keeping track of those so that we can get those answered for you as we're moving through here. So here's the disclaimer. Now, everyone, this is being recorded. And so what I want you to know is that myself, the SBOD, Cody, we have done all that we can do to bring you the most up-to-date information today, and it could be different tomorrow. And so it's critical. I just love that you're on this call at all for you to be the driver, right? To be the driver. And as things change, we're going to do everything we can to get that information. I'm going to tell you, I'm conservative by nature in caution, right? I believe this is the time to err on the side of caution. This is not, and I'm on these calls and there's always groups of people
attempting to figure out how to work around the system. And what we would say to you right now is the time to err on the side of caution. What's at stake and who's monitoring? The LVR MLSs have been designated as the people that are responsible to monitor that the settlement is being appropriately maintained, that people are actually doing that. So what that's going to look like in the future is LVR, Marissa, I'll just use you as the example. LVR calls you up, says, I want to see a copy of the buyer's brokerage agreement and your residential purchase agreement, duties owed. And you have, get this, write it down, 24 hours to get those documents to them. It could be never more important if you find yourself as an unorganized person to change the way you do business, because the fines are going to pile up. The first fine for a violation in the MLS that has anything to do with advertising, co-op fees, whatever you want to call them, is $1,000, and your listing will be immediately removed. The second time, $5,000. Now they're careful, and I'm sure as you're in the MLS, you've read that they say this will not be one of those places that you'll be able to go and sit in a class. It is immediately, and for some people, $1,000 fine could put them out of business. A $5,000 fine. And then the board of directors could decide to remove your membership from the LVR. So the stakes are high. There's not a period of time where we're going to figure it out. The figure out period of time is over midnight on Friday. And then I also hear people say, oh, I didn't know. Well, I didn't know will not be defensible. There is no way that you don't know unless you don't want to know. And so I'm always surprised when I teach law and I get people in there that their license is expiring and we're teaching a legislative session that's 2 years old, right? Not knowing the laws that are currently impacting their clients doesn't seem to be a high priority for real estate agents. That strategy will not work here either. And so it is critical and it is important that you take this very seriously, that you become very aware of it. And I think this is a line in the sand. Shouldn't scare anyone. I've been using buyer brokerage agreements for decades. And I will tell you right now, I have for decades collected the difference. So my fee, 3%. We've had sellers out there for years that have been paying 2 and 2.5, and I collect the difference. On a very rare occasion, I have a buyer that can't afford it. I'm not going to walk away from someone having their dream because they're unable to afford it. That's a different conversation. What I find most often is that it's our belief about money. It's money programs that we have that impact what we think we deserve to be paid. And so this will be an interesting time, but there will be very specific guidelines in how you're going to conduct yourself. So I've got a pop quiz for you. Are you ready? Kate, how many people do we have on the call?
25, including us.
Okay, so what's going to happen, everyone open up your chat box right now. And we want to see, based on what you know so far, how are you doing? So when and when not to have a BBRA signed? All right, so first question, yes or no? When? Open house, yes or no? Do you need a BBRA when someone comes through an open house? Put it in the chat. Everyone done? It's only 3 letters, so it should be easy. Can someone tell me, do you need a BBRA if someone's coming through an open house? Come off
It
chat.
depends.
It depends.
It depends. If it's your listing, then you work for the seller and you don't. If it's not your listing, you better have a BBRA. That's my opinion.
Okay, Steve, what's your opinion?
I think that if you're holding an open house for another agent and someone comes to the door and they're not willing to sign a BBRA, you're going to be in trouble if you block them and refuse entrance. And so that's where there's a friction point here with regard to open houses and the BBRA. And I know you're going to address it in detail.
Right now, we're going to talk about it right now. So it's the intention. It's the intention, right? So if I am representing the seller, a BBRA is not required. Anyone can come through that property. They get done viewing the property and they come to you and they say, I want to buy the house. Awesome. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is a BBRA immediately. I have, Cody, how many places have I checked this?
I don't know, a lot.
Abundant. And it's across the board. The fact sheet, the NAR fact sheet was just updated with the information, bringing clarity specifically under open houses. I think it's item 61. If you are acting on behalf of the seller, no BBRA is required. The buyer then decides that they want to buy the property. You go immediately into BBRA, you're fine. So in the case that I am an agent that is doing marketing for the seller for that property, again, not required. BBRA, not required. I am marketing the property on behalf of the seller. They they come back, I want to buy it, immediately go into the BBRA. Cody, any comment you want to make on that?
No, I think that's perfect. And that's very clear on the FAQ website. And I know you're going to get to this, but I do encourage everybody to be watching that website. It changes every day. So we'll try to get the word out to everybody as it changes as best we can, but everybody's got to be watching that.
And I already hit that. There's a link, just so that I make sure that I didn't do it too quick. We've got the link in the box for you to be able to get to that. It was a couple B back, so I don't want to. So yes, you've got to stay on top of that fact sheet. All right, next one. I set up a specific search based on a buyer's criteria. Do I need a BBRA? I set up a specific search based on a buyer's criteria. Do I need it? How's it going, Kay? Are people... There we go. I see it here. Awesome. All right, come off of mute. What's the answer? Come on.
I think you need, I think you need the BBRA prior to showing property.
Hey, go ahead. Who else?
It was Vicky. I think I would like to have one because the intent is that I'm working with that buyer to get property for them.
Yeah, that's the big key here. I set up on a specific search, meaning I had a significant conversation with them and they put me to work on their behalf. I need a BBRA. If it's a marketing one, right? It's a marketing piece. I have not had a significant conversation, not required. I'm going to tell you, I am going on the side of caution with that one. We're going to talk about this a little bit further, but there are groups of people out there currently waiting for us to screw this up. So if you've had a significant conversation with a consumer, a duties owed would have already been done, which opens the door to do the BBRA. And we do talk about implied agency, and there is that piece of it. So again, I had a conversation, I'm hooking them up with lenders, I'm setting up searches, BBRA, yes. All right, so question number 3, pop quiz. Before you show a property, do you need a BBRA? This would not be an open house. This would not be that you're showing someone one of your listings.
Everybody says yes, Denise.
Awesome. In those 2 cases, I have a listing, somebody wants to see it. I can go and show that property without the BBRA. All right. Now listen to this one. I'm showing a listing to put, oh, I did this one. I apologize. Listen to this one. Working with a buyer on behalf of the seller. Do I need a BBRA? That's a little trickier. You gotta read those words. I feel like I was putting a question into the division to put on the real estate license test. I'm working with a buyer on behalf of the seller. So what do you think? Come off the mic. I want to hear from you. What's your opinion?
What kind of work?
What kind of work? What's
Am I just
showing
opening the door and letting them in? Am I representing them? I mean, I'm representing the seller. If I'm also representing the buyer, I need a lot more paperwork than the BBRA. But if I'm just, opening a door for them or their contractor or whatever, that's
yeah,
I'm
in
not
this
representing them.
particular, yeah, that's it. I'm not representing them. I'm working with them on the seller behalf. I'm not a single agent representing both parties in this particular scenario. Right? And so no BBRA is required. It's really important we understand this unrepresented buyer scenario. Buyers are not required to sign a BBRA if they don't want to be represented. Not required. So this is where we say there's so many opportunities though, because every buyer that I'm going to come in contact with is going to get the opportunity to say yes, the opportunity to hire me because my presentation is ready. Buyers visiting your websites. Do you need a BBRA? So I get an alert through KV Core. Someone's been on my website. Do I need to reach out to them and have a BBRA signed? Let's see, what are y'all saying? No, 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 no. Yep, nope, not required. So, however, that interaction now turns into a conversation where now have any type of implied agency. Now we've got a BBRA or no representation. All right, you did awesome. Good for you. So what kind of representation choices do we have? One of the changes that we saw made to the BBA, and it isn't exactly what we want, was this very top piece of the new BBRA says exclusive and non-exclusive. The board of directors has asked for these to be two separate documents, just like we have an exclusive agency listing agreement or an exclusive right to sell listing agreement. We want to see those two things separate. This was a step forward, not all that we want to see. So I just want you to be thinking along a listing line. Just like I can have an exclusive right to sell, which means they work with only me. Also, that means as a member of the National Association of Realtors, I make a commitment not to solicit a fellow member's clients. Now, we are hearing some conversation, some opportunities. Would there be a registry for buyers, some way that it's more that we're more aware of what type of agreements are out there? I think that it leaves an opportunity for someone to do that, but I think it's quite a ways off. So what we want to encourage you as a SBOD is don't work for free, right? Don't do it. The exclusive representation choice is the best choice as a real estate professional. And from time to time, with the new rules, it may require a non-exclusive agreement for a specific property, right? For a specific property. And so we understand that we'll see this more in the environment moving forward. However, we strongly encourage you to build a business based on people that are willing to hire you and pay to be represented. I mean, come on, it's a $400,000 transaction. We're talking about a 3%. You're talking about $12,000 to be represented in the most important decision, probably of your financial career of sorts, right? This is the time for representation. How quickly would it take for a buyer to lose $12,000? To lose 3%, whether it's in negotiations, whether it's in a repair request, whether it's in an appraisal, I don't care where it's at. And so it's first mindset, your worth. And so we want to be the voice that says that is the way to build a business. And I will tell you, every SBOD member said, I'm only doing exclusive representation. Now, I think that we will all find that there will be some wiggle room for us that we've never had before as we move forward. But our stance is the primary focus of our business is exclusive right to sell. Then we've talked about the non-exclusive, the one-off properties. And when we go through the form and we present the form, you'll see that a little bit more. Non-represented. Buyers are going to think that they can represent themselves. And this is one of those things in the buyer's BBRA form that's, talks about unrepresented, it's not the BBRA, it's the one page that says, hey, I'll write the contract for you, basically. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what does that mean? How do you get the unrepresented party to get an offer to you? How do we get them through the process of inspections and all the things that you and I know goes in that a buyer has to be aware of? And so we'll talk about that a little bit more. Single agent representing both parties. I know someone's saying dual agency. Dual agency is not recognized in the state of Nevada. The term is a single agent representing both parties is still on the table and we would use the same forms, the duties owed, the consent to acts, all of those type of forms, we would use a BBRA and a listing agreement, and it is still above board. So if that's something that you have the training in to be able to represent both parties, then certainly that's something you can do. What and when is procuring cause? And that'll be one of the clauses that we have to be added on, is the language from the last BBA item F that specifically talked about procuring cause as it's related to the signing of the contract. So any real estate transaction that was covered under the BBRA during the contract is procuring cause. So that is one of the things that we want added. And so we're working on that piece of it. So the roadmap for buyers is an incredible. You'll find this in the buyer's toolbox. I thought it was really great. The professionalism that went into it. And it just begins what I believe could be your buyer strategy session. So meeting with the real estate professional, getting approved, searching for homes, advanced searches, making offers, negotiating contracts, in escrow, final details, closing. And then we're going to talk in a little bit about how to build vignettes of value in each one of these pieces, so that by the time you get the end where it says closing, hey, based on what you've heard today, do you think I'm the right agent to hire? Do you think I'm the right team to hire? They say yes, and we move right into the the BBRA.
Denise,
How
can I
do you
make a
talk
comment
to?
there?
Yeah, certainly, please.
So
Diane.
that phrase that you have taught us and just repeated now, based on what you've seen, do you think I'm the right agent to hire, or some form of that, is extremely powerful in getting hired. Like it works really well, but it works really well if you've shown them all the value proposition leading up to that question. And so I just want to reiterate what Denise is saying here. This buyer's roadmap is great. How she's shown us how to use the duties owed, that's an insanely powerful way of doing it. There are other ways also of doing it, but you got to have for yourself your value proposition explanation before you ask that question, and you'll see that you get hired a lot, even from buyers who say they don't want to be represented in the beginning.
Because they don't know. So you would start back over on the top before one, and you're sitting down and you're in the strategy session. We've completed the duties owed. In the beginning of the duties owed, we're saying, hey, this isn't a contract for services. If you decide to hire me, you're going to hire me by signing a buyer's brokerage agreement. Is that okay? Yes. Awesome. Well, let me show you the roadmap. And then you ask it on 8. And so you tie that duties owed into this presentation, and it's a winning combination. And once again, EXP has proven themselves. You listen to that risk media, you hear the accolades going to Leo on behalf of EXP and all the hundreds of thought leaders that have been part of this conversation within our own company. So something to be really proud of. When we're talking about how to talk to buyers, I thought this was absolutely fabulous as well. Have you ever heard that acronym KISS? Does anyone know what KISS stands for?
Keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. There's another part to that. I'm glad you left it off. Yeah, just keep it
silly. I've heard people use another word, but I would say silly.
Allie, I love you. Yes, keep it simple.
Word. I don't use silly. That's push-ups in my house.
There you go. I love that. So this is just really an easy way. And I'm not going to go through this. However, we have all these links in for you, how to guide their experience. And so we'll have that link there too. Oops, maybe. Let's see if I can go back. There we go. All right. So look, this is a new way to get paid. I hope you are excited about that. This is the opportunity for you never to have to work for free again, right? And so the very first step is to decide what your compensation is based on value. I want to tell you that for decades, we've heard people say that discount brokers were going to change the market, going to put everyone out of business. And you have seen that not be true. We've changed laws so that discount brokers could be in compliance with the law. However, they have a piece of the puzzle. They have a piece of the market. Who cares? Just like the dollar store does as well. And you heard over and over that consumers are willing to pay for convenience. They're willing to pay for experience. I want you to think about the knowledge, skills, and ability, not of yourself independently, but the knowledge, skills, and ability of the community that you are part of, the franchise that you are part of, the community of real estate professionals. I have a group of 6 friends, and we started a broker, and over years we've all went someplace different. These are we're called the real estate ladies, right? These are my ladies. This is partnership, and we all charge something different. So I want you just to be comfortable and decide, what are you building and what are you going to charge for that? Being part of EXP allows us a lot of flexibility that in other organizations that you don't. But I caution you not to do it from fear. I caution you not to do it because you have self-doubt about your worth. I ask you to do it based on, what are you building? What does it offer the consumer? And again, if you feel, unsure about that, get with us. Let us be part of it. But businesses only exist for one reason. And for those of you that are about to get offended, don't ask for apology, because I won't give it. Businesses only exist to make profits. And if you're not profitable, there is no way you can stay in business. Profits to a company is like oxygen is to humans. It's required. And so keeping in mind, whatever model I use has to be able to build profits that will fund my life, not just today, but in the future as well. And this is an important concept that's changing for us. You will now get paid what you are willing to negotiate. And I think that is an amazing conversation piece. If I'm unable, Mr. Buyer, to even negotiate with you my compensation, how could you ever trust me to negotiate your family's best interest? Your ability to negotiate right now and to take a stand for yourself demonstrates a skill set that I promise you is going to make them more than your compensation when you get into the transaction. Right? And so this is the time. We are now in a skills-based real estate environment. It's not that activities don't count anymore, but do not misunderstand. We are in a skills-based real estate environment, which means if you don't feel like you have a strength in negotiation, it's time to go get trained. Take a course, go to a class, read some books, get a coach. Because skills will matter as we move forward. Cody, I wonder what you think about that statement.
This is such an opportunity. I was just telling this to the CE classes that I taught yesterday, that I've always felt like I've been able to totally dominate in the listing game. Like if I go up against a bunch of other realtors, I know I'm going to get hired to list the property. But I've never felt like I was able to dominate as much in the buyer side because there were so many buyers agents willing to kind of get used and abused by the way it was working. They would just hope and pray, cross their fingers that they were going to continue working with that buyer. Well, this change makes it so that those who have the skills are going to get paid. And so I look at that as like, this is the best thing ever because I'm loving to put together a skill set. This is why I'm drinking in everything Denise is teaching us because I know she's amazing at this. And now I feel like it's worth it for me to hone my own skill set to be really good at dominating in the buyer side game too. So yeah, I'm loving this.
Awesome. Awesome. So one of the ways it's strategy, right, Cody? So that's what I'm hearing you say is you haven't yet found your strategy. All of us know when Cody figures out a strategy, it's all over, right? So I'm going to give you some of the keys because I've had to come in and look at my business. I've had to find my gaps and I'm still uncovering them as I go through this. But one of the things that we have done before when we were in multiple offers is we provided a net sheet that just didn't include the payoff. That's all it didn't include. And it didn't include the commissions. Now it's going to include the buyer's commission. It won't include the listing agents. And we're providing those net sheets moving forward with all of our offers. The biggest reason is that the largest majority of real estate agents do not know how to do a net sheet. And there will be such a disparity based on sales price and compensations that agents that aren't competent won't be able to do. And so to ensure that our offers get the best look and that we will be able to show our compensation tied into that net, we're going to do net sheets for them. So I'm really excited about that piece of it because it's just putting in what we call an assumptive close. Like, here's your net assumptive. You just got to put two things in, add these, and here we are. And they're going to see that that is the same. And we're going to give you some new terms to use in these net sheets. So who can pay for you? What's that piece of it? So there's several ways to get paid. And so the first way to get paid is buyer to buyer's agent. It's important to know all around the United States, it is done differently, right? So in Nevada, it could be buyer to buyer's agent. That is one way. It could be buyer's agent to listing agent. As an industry, you are going to hear rumblings that EXP does not do that. You're hearing rumblings that, we don't pay buyer's agents. I think it's the most important decision and distinction that EXP has made. I think that is hot lava, right? That is exactly what they're trying to do is decouple that. So I'm excited that our company took a strong stance against buyer's agent to listing agent to buyer's agent. But in other parts of the country, and when you see some of the forms that we're going to show you here, you're going to see that. So I couldn't ignore it. That is what they're talking about. We are not going to do that piece of it. And by the way, in other parts of the country where that's being done, the seller still has to approve that. Then it is seller will pay us, right? So now the question is, where do we start to negotiate what our fee is? So this form that you're seeing right now is a direct compensation from seller. And so this could be done in a number of places. This could be done before I show the property. Hey, I want to make sure that the seller would pay me this percentage for my services. Now, if I'm a listing agent, I'm never letting my seller agree to that because we have a whole new way to look at nets. Whole new way. And so I just negotiated our first contract where the RPA came in asking for 3%. We negotiated it down to 2.75. The sales price was 460 they offered, and we offered it up at 465. So you can see where that compensation piece ended up being part of getting us where we needed to be. So this is a direct compensation form, certainly something that you could use. You could add this to the back part of an RPA. Don't think you really need it. However, it is one of the forms that you're going to see that EXP has put out. So I at least wanted to bring to the conversation that it is available.
Denise?
Yes, sir.
You maybe are going to get to this more, but
Sure.
because Katie asked this in the beginning, I just want to make sure that we do address this. It has always sort of worked in Nevada the way it's going to work going forward. But there is a slight nuance difference where there are some brokerages who actually do have, to this point, have collected the entire commission through escrow and then have actually delivered that commission to the buyer's broker. And that's the thing that now EXP has decided its policy will be, that it will not do that way. But in most of the cases we've seen to date in Nevada, the escrow company is who's sending it to the buyer's broker. So it will probably continue to work very much the same. The nuanced difference is just that we're making it extremely clear that if a commission is paid to the buyer's agent, it'll show on the settlement statement of who's paying it. It'll show that it's either being paid by the buyer or it's being paid by the seller, and that it's not being paid from the listing broker to the buyer's broker. And so that, I hope that answers your question, Katie, but it's really a little bit of a moot point because we've seen it like that on the settlement statement for lots of the transactions that we've done historically.
100%. And you know what, when you talk about that closing statement, the one thing that I hear quite a bit from people is that when I look at the closing statement, it's always been that from the seller side of the closing statement. It actually is not. It actually is the total commission, and it's just broken out that the seller agreed to pay the listing agent and how the listing agent is dispersing that. So yes, it shows up that way. However, if you go back to the contract for compensation was the listing agreement, which no longer will be the case.
Can I
All right,
chime in?
Katie. Sure.
I think we're going to see, I think we will see most brokerages in Nevada, if not all, go to that same policy that EXP has said they're going to do. I think that's what we're going to see most do, just for caution.
I think
that in some, like, there have been cases where there were some renovation costs or things that the seller was unable to carry during to get it ready for the market. And I have had situations where I've paid those vendors in advance with a contract with the seller that they would pay me back. So I feel like it really is handled the same way any of those costs, or if a vendor carried it and a vendor gets paid, you just need to present the contract, you know, whereby whether it's the buyer that's agreeing to pay it or the seller who's agreeing to pay it, that all that's given to escrow and that's just handled from there, because they've never had a problem reimbursing for additional compensation, you know, when it's reimbursing certain things that were paid in advance. So I just feel like it's really not that big a deal.
Well, our RPA is great. I think that they did an excellent job of separating out page 2, line 1, buyers representation fee. It also goes on that after the RPA is fully executed, that there can't be any change to that fee without authorization from the buyer's agent. And so I think that we've done a really good job. I'm a coach for workman success, and so I coach broker owners, team leaders all over the United States. And so I've had a chance to see some of their forms. And I have to tell you, and I've always felt this way about our forms here, we do a pretty darn good job in comparison to other things that I see. Not perfect for sure, but go check out Boise, Idaho, and their forms and how they go about things. It looks a lot different. Here, when you see these hyperlinks, we're going to take you right to the document. I'm not going to take you here because we've got it and additional clauses. We're going to talk about that. I do want to take us to the RPA just to bring out specifically this point. It's item number 2, representative buyer broker compensation. At the close of escrow or exchange of the subject property, seller shall pay the buyer broker blank percent of the gross sales price of the property. Or, now be careful, this is not and. So if there's a BAC fee that you're wanting the seller to pick up as well, you're going to have to add that in. So do a total calculation for that and put it here, or add it under additional terms. That'll be something that'll be a little bit different. I never, the BAC always comes from my buyers. So just keeping that in mind, though, this is not an and, this is an or. Upon execution of this residential purchase agreement or subsequent counteroffers, this clause is no longer negotiable exclusively between the buyer and the seller, with any modification thereafter must be ratified in writing by the buyer's representative or the buyer broker. So right here, once we have a fully executed contract, people don't get to come back and change it. Let's get on back. So we also have hit hyperlinks for you here to make it easy for you to take a look at EXP's broker BRA. We've also put in here the non-representation agreement that EXP is doing. And so I want to kind of chat that one up a little bit. So EXP disclosure and acknowledgement of a non-representation. I think it's a good form, especially in a case of an open house where I felt like there was a sketchy situation. There'll be buyers out there that will misbehave. And if I feel like I need that protection, that makes it very clear I'm not representing them, this might be a form that I would use. So this breaks down this disclosure of non-representation. EXP represents only EXP Realty clients concerning their sale or purchase of property as applicable. EXP Realty does not represent you concerning your sale or purchase of the property as applicable. EXP Realty owes the following duties to all parties in the transaction, clients and non-clients alike: honesty, disclosure, and accounting. And so then this goes on. There are times that I feel like I am going to use this form because I do not like implied agency at all. And remember, in implied agency, only one person has to think you're working for them. And there will definitely be people that will come across me now that I didn't have to worry about before, that I will have to worry about. And so for that purpose, I think this is a good document. Cody, Steve, any thought on that?
No, I agree with you. I think that it's a great way to differentiate exactly what you're providing for them and what your obligations are without equivocation.
Yep. Cody,
I love
any
that
comment?
you shared this. That was amazing, because I think you're going to have situations, if you're on the listing side on an open house, where there will be people that will want to be unrepresented and write up an offer. And
Yeah.
And I actually thought about this scenario, and I was like, okay, how are we going to handle that one? You know, not going to, if they, and this covers it. It's like, okay, just because I give you a form that for the offer, if they're telling you how they want it filled out.
So let me bring that to your attention. Item 3 here, transaction documents. This is why I don't like it, and I'm working on a workaround. Joe D has a really good thing that he's doing. We're going to probably play with a couple of things till we get there, but this says EXP Realty will use information you provide to fill out incomplete transaction-related documents concerning the property, such as for example, the purchase and sell agreement and related documents. For the benefit of EXP Realty clients, the act by EXP Realty will not cause EXP Realty to become your representative. You are responsible for ensuring your own understanding and compliance with any transactions. So this is the challenge. You have a listing. Your obligation is to whom? The seller. right? You have a potential buyer that does not want to be represented. So you say, sorry, figure it out yourself. Have you brought harm to the seller based on compensation? I know you don't want to do it, but take your head and go up and down. I know nobody wants to do that, but you have. So we have to figure out a way to work around that. Joe's group, great idea. They have a form, fill this out. They're just going to fill in the blanks. I have the idea of sending off the RPA, fill it out. And it was interesting. JC Melvin, great friend of mine, huge mentor of mine. Been with him, known him for decades. And we had a long conversation about that. And I think by the time I got done with it, he's like, okay, I see it. I see why you would do it that way. So you have to be cautious here that you are still putting the best interest of your seller. So from a strategic point of view, for example, they put in 7 days for due diligence. I'm not calling them on day 6 and say, hey, you only have 24 more hours to do that. Nope. If it expires and it's in my seller's benefit, that's my job. So it's a very fine line. Please reach out for support if you find yourself in the situation, because those of us that are doing it forever, like, we're going to be there. I'm going to
What's
go
wrong with
fast
paragraph
now.
3?
Well,
What
because
don't
it's
you like
not
about paragraph 3?
Yeah, I don't like anything about paragraph 3 because I don't want to fill out. I feel like even though it says I have no liability, I feel like I have all the liability because my background is from title and escrow. I spent 18 years, and a lot of that time I was part of our legal teams, went into, courtrooms where we had iron tight cases that we did the right thing. And this term that they keep using, this customer friendly, this client friendly, yeah, that shows up in the courts. Well, you had an obligation to do good. So that's what I don't really like about it. Whereas
Denise?
if I hand them the document and they fill it out, go get legal counsel, go check that out. So it's dicey. We'll figure it out.
So
Go ahead.
Denise, I think that one of the areas where we run into a problem with this is especially when you think about how we fill out that form to begin with. When we're writing the offer on behalf of our buyer, there are certain costs that we consider to be customary, right? And so I have certain blanks that I've got pre-filled with some of those customary costs that I'm trying to push to the seller. Well, if I'm representing the seller, my intention is to push those costs to the buyer. But in an effort to be fair and honest with the buyer, you are rubbing up against those issues of who pays for what. And this is where it becomes really dicey because if the buyer were to say, wait a minute, you didn't tell me that that was a customary cost, or you didn't tell me that I could negotiate this, then you put yourself in a bit of jeopardy. Yes?
So Denise,
Yes.
I just decided that we're going to do a follow-up Realtor Toolbox called Situations.
Oh, love it.
And so before that, we'll ask everybody to send in, well, what about this situation? And what about that situation? And what about that situation? Because that's where the rubber's going to meet the road on a lot of these things. And since
Yeah.
we don't have time to deal with all the different situations now, we'll use a separate session for that so that you can have time to finish your content. But just know that
Awesome.
that's going to be coming.
Awesome. Sounds great. All right. So this one is one that is a one page, it's EXP's forms, single property buyer broker agreement form. I didn't spend any time on this because it's not something that we think we want to suggest. We have another way to go about it. However, again, it is a form that EXP has. And then I also included the old BBA because I think you're going to see from where the first BBA was that the LVR started to where they are, they've done a pretty good job of combining both of these things together. All right. So EXP provided an opportunity that I thought was awesome on how to create your unique buyer value proposition. This is incredibly important as you're presenting your BBA. You have got to be able to craft that and communicate it in a way that is equal to compensation. Rarely do I hear agents give a value proposition that I think equals their compensation. And it's not because it doesn't exist, it's because they have not crafted it. EXP did an awesome job of helping you define step one, your unique value proposition, getting you into step two. And then they gave you examples. Highly recommend. And that might be something, Cody, that we do another Realtor Toolbox, that we build these out with people. That's a workshop, and maybe it's more of a workshop where we're together, because then we have crafted. Oops, let me come back here. What just happened, Kay? Notice I said, Kay, what did I just do? Hold on one second. For us to be able to come and craft these buyer statements. After you build your buyer value statements, you have to build vignettes. And so a vignette is going to be an opportunity for you to tell a story of how the situation happened and what hiring and how hiring you or a buyer's agent solved for it. It's emotional IQ. It's being able to relate to people emotionally, and especially as it has to do with compensation. And then let ChatGPT help you in those conversations. All right, so new language, things that we think are helpful as we start talking to buyers and even sellers. And so this is the scenario I'm getting asked all the time. How do I find out how much? And let me tell you, every right word and every wrong word has been used. The wrongest of wrongs is, how do I get to find out what my co-op is? Co-op no longer exists. So this is how we are doing it. So we're calling up the listing agent and we're saying, hey, we have a buyer. I'm not going to use showing time at all. You can put that all in all you want. It is no longer going to be an effective way to schedule showings. And hey, I just have a quick question. Would the seller be willing to help buyers with their acquisition costs? Oh, what's an acquisition cost? That's the cost including the fee they're paying me. Yeah, they would. The way we're responding as a listing agent is, hey, write the offer, put it in what you need. My seller's willing to work with structure, so let's get a deal together. Right? There's a lot of ways to talk about it, and this is really about using your voice and creating choices, creating opportunities to do things a little bit different. Another one is that we're going to hear about now is buyer affordability. It used to be always about a sales price that somebody could qualify for. Now it's going to be about buyer affordability and how that happens. Then it's going to be about acquisition costs. You know, what's the acquisition cost? It's going to be now their closing costs, now their BVRA fee, right? So it no longer is just about a sales price, but an acquisition cost. Another term that we're liking is marketing incentives. The seller's willing to offer a marketing incentive, right? So instead of offering a co-op to an agent, a marketing incentive, a way to market their property to bring in more buyers. And I think that that piece, whether I like it or not, is going to open the doors for other people besides just real estate agents to get paid. I think that we've opened a door, a Pandora box of sorts. We'll see how that opens up. Getting back to this, I get paid what I negotiate. And so your ability to negotiate for your families will become very important, as well as for our buyers. What are their costs? What is your cost of services? And one thing that happened yesterday on that I immediately sent a text to my whole team, do not ever say that. There was a statement made that 80% of buyers are going to, excuse me, I quoted that incorrectly, that most buyers are going to provide to you the properties that they want to see. They found it themselves or a friend or family. And then that 80% of our job will be from contract to closing. I couldn't disagree more on that statement. Can you get Beckett up? I couldn't disagree on that statement more. That is a lazy real estate agent. Buyers do not know communities. Identifying properties is a critical part of what we do for a living. And I think that it is important that we keep that in our value proposition. And so these costs of services, that's where I spend a huge amount of my time, is looking for properties that meet my client's criteria. I'm not trusting an algorithm to do that. And so I want you to really dig into all your cost of services and what is the financial investment you're making in that. I think you'll be surprised. Focus on the facts, not the fears, right? Focus on facts, not fears. And we're using buyer strategy sessions instead of working with consultations, because the strategies are going to tie around financial issues. So the way we get started with a buyer strategy session is we set an appointment. When we set that appointment, what we're going to do is we are going to contact our loan officer. It will be never more important than working with Carrie Phillips than it is today. Because what we want to make sure is, it used to be that only 30% of the time an exclusive buyer's brokerage agreement was being signed. Nothing to worry about. Today, 100% of the time, it will at least be presented. So after we set the appointment, we're going to do a joint text. And we're going to connect us with the lender. We're going to connect us with Carrie and introduce our buyer. Carrie has a great link and app that we can use as well in this process. Then we're going to ask Carrie to pull credit, to do the loan application, but not to give the information to the buyer until we hit the strategy session. And this is why. If Carrie tells the buyer outside of our strategy session that, hey, their credit score isn't what it needs to be, hey, they need to save money, hey, they don't have enough income, hey, do you have someone else? There is some guilt, remorse, embarrassment that I have found buyers have. And they rarely then show up to the strategy session. If they don't show up to the strategy session, I can't get them to hire me. And I can do a buyer's brokerage agreement for as long as I want. So this is what we do. If we have someone that's ready to go, we're going to do a 6-month BBA. If we have someone that has credit issues, we're going to do a 12-month BBA. If we have someone that's relocating and is ready to go, we're going to do 6 months from when they relocate. And if we have someone that's relocating that has some credit issues, we're going to do a year from when they actually relocate. And so we need those to get hired. If you don't get hired in this strategy session because they think, oh, I'm going to wait, you're leaving opportunity after opportunity for agent after agent to sign a buyer's brokerage agreement. Does that make sense?
Denise?
Yes.
One of the things that I've learned recently by watching Lacey McCarty, who's on the board, and she would have been on this call, but she's on a flight right now, is that if you notice in her YouTube videos, she says in every video whether you're ready now or not, I want to hear from you. I want to talk with you. I want to know your story. Contact me today, even if you're not ready to start looking to buy a house yet. And at first, when I first saw that, I thought, oh man, I wouldn't want to say that because I wouldn't want people just calling me for no reason. Call me when you're ready. But she captures these people, wins their hearts, and then forgets about them. And 3 years later, they call her up and say, hey, you spent that time with me in the beginning, and now I'm ready. So I think Denise is bringing up a really good point here to implement into your buyer strategy sessions. You can have those sessions even if that person is not 100% qualified in the moment.
100%. Hey, as a real estate coach, I am building in KV Core A clients, B clients, and C clients. A clients are ready to sign, ready to buy under 30 days. B clients are ready to buy under 90 days. C clients are 90 plus. In your business, you're going to survive fourth quarter if you have C clients. If you haven't spent any time nurturing C clients that needed to do some things, your fourth quarter is going to be much more difficult because you're going to have to find A clients during fourth quarter. And so every strategy session, every opportunity to get hired is building an SOI. And we call that your source of income. It is a predictable way to say how that I have revenue generating all throughout the year. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. The next thing is when you set the appointment, you have to stay in touch. Same thing, with Lacey, not hearing from them for 3 years, I imagine we should even have a higher conversion rate if she had an automated system that kept in touch with them. So I'm sure she has something like that going behind the scenes that doesn't require, her to have that high touch point, but still stays in front of them. This will be so important because in the case of these BBAs now, if you don't stay in contact with people, they can get out of the BBA for no cause. And so they can cancel for any reason. So if you think you're just going to sign a BBA and they're stuck with you, that is not the case. And so staying in touch before the appointment and after the appointment will be so important. We talked about the lender joining our strategy sessions. You've got to get hired immediately. No longer can you let there be a delay because they are going to find people. And I venture to guess there might be some people that are very aggressive. So this is how we're going to go through the actual BBA. And so session 2 already up. We showed you how to use the duties owed to have them from the very beginning understand that if they decide to hire you, they're going to hire you by signing a buyer's brokerage agreement. We went through the duties owed, created a great presentation, so good that at the end, they said, yes, of course, we're going to hire you. And so with that, we can, at the very end, fantastic, they want to hire me. They've been told 4 times through the duties owed that they're going to hire us by signing a buyer's brokerage agreement. I want to bring up the supplemental of the duties owed once again. If you are doing open houses where you are representing, it's a marketing, you're representing the seller's best interest, make sure that you are put on there. So this is the form, the buyer's brokerage form. And again, on a scale of 1 out of 10, I'm going to give it a 7. I really want to see this in 2 places because this is saying this exclusive agreement, not working with another agent. You are now going to have to be able to articulate a non-exclusive agreement. This is going to be harsh for some of you, but this is what I'm saying. So we only represent buyers that hire us. Therefore, this is an exclusive agreement. You're agreeing to work with me exclusively, and I'm agreeing to work with you. So that's how I'm not even going to address a non-exclusive agreement. It's not what we do. If you've created enough value in your duties owed, if you've created enough value in your roadmap, this will go smooth. If you have not, it won't. Under type of properties, you want to check as many as possible here. So we're going to do residential, investment. We always say to people, hey, do you ever think about buying commercial property? If they said yes, I'd do it there. I'd add vacant land. Probably wouldn't do a custom build job unless that was something they were interested in, a new home. And that's all we're going to do. Then we're not going to put anything. Normally, I'm going to scratch through or I'm going to put not applicable. In this case, I'm going to keep that open. Other descriptions, I'm going to keep it open. So I had heard someone say, oh, Clark County. Well, I sell in Lincoln County. Diana on our team just sold a house up in Ely. So I don't want to limit to a county either. So this is why we're not using the single line, because on this form, it allows you to just check here and put the APN or put the address, which gives you all the protections. Length of the agreement, I already gave you some guidelines. This is what I would say to you about your length of agreement. What you do for one person, do for everybody. This length of the agreement, the only thing that might be different is if you are using this for someone that doesn't want to have a long term, it's only about one property. This is where I'm saying that we might find some adjustments. We might find that consumers have different expectations. We won't know until we actually get into it. However, some of you may decide that you're going to just be willing to work for just one day, but anything that we see, I will tell you this, if you work for one day, I think it will be more important than ever that you start to keep your searches organized. This was all the properties. I printed out the single line of all the properties that I showed them. So something to think about on that. This is it. So I'm going to tell you once again what I'm going to say here. Isn't it exciting that 80% of the time the seller is willing to pay 100% of my fee? And I want you to know that you never have to buy a property that they aren't willing to pay it. Isn't that great news? Did I get any applause? Did I win anyone over? Hard for me to see. What's your thought? How's that work for you?
Everybody got really happy, I could see.
Awesome. Awesome. That's it. It's really that simple. If you make it harder than that, then you just like hard things. Because it's true. 80% of the time, they're going to pay for it. It's about strategy and structure. And people say that our compensation isn't financeable. Carrie, it is financeable when we include it in the sales price, correct?
When you include it in the sales price, but in return, it's given as a closing cost contribution to the seller, from the seller.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly.
It has to appraise.
Sure. Absolutely has to appraise. No doubt. No doubt it doesn't. It has to appraise. So that's the piece of it. They did and I know that Cody and the board of directors, we, item number 3 here, we talk about, this is where you're going to put your BAC. So this will be, $695 to be paid towards the BAC. Broker fee is due and payable at the successful closing. Isn't that fantastic news? I work for free unless we close. And by the way, that's why you want to make sure that you're working with Carrie, that you're getting real pre-qualified buyers. If Carrie has approved your buyer, they're closing, period. No questions asked. And you also know if they are unable to, she's going to help find ways that maybe not today, but in the future.
I lost there we go.
There's a question in the chat about if it doesn't appraise.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that because I am, of course, now going at 4:30. Can I renegotiate 5 minutes? Everyone, and I understand if you have to go out, and I could have been more in detail. Maybe we decide to go more in detail. So collecting broker fees from seller. Buyer may choose to negotiate that the broker fee be paid in whole or in part by the seller as a credit to the buyer at closing, and or the seller directly to the broker at closing. At buyer's instruction, broker will include either or both of these in the buyer's offer to purchase a property, and the broker will help the buyer negotiate these with the seller. Broker will not retain any amount from any source that exceeds the amount agreed above. That's so important that you see that piece of it, because we just don't know. We don't know what our fee is this. Now, you may decide to break it down in additional terms that says, hey, for new homes, it's going to be 4%, because we know that there's a bunch of buyer incentives. Although I think that there's a lot of buyers out there that would say, but why wouldn't I get that incentive? So you're going to have to be able to articulate that. Disclosures. This is so important. Again, we're talking about that consent to act. What we do is when we present the duties owed and the supplemental, we also present the consent to act. We put not applicable for a property, not applicable for a seller, to be determined for a property, to be determined. We just think that it's important that all parties see this consent to act before we slide it in front of them to show a property. So I think that's why we have such a great experience with our buyers and sellers when we're a single agent representing both parties. Item B here is it's talking about other potential buyers. This is going to be sticky, Cody. We got to put this on the situational stuff because there's a lot that could happen in representing multiple buyers on one property, one buyer, agents, all kinds of crazy stuff that could happen there. Item number 6, broker will exercise good faith. And this is actually laying out what your compensation is equal to. And then item 7 here represents the buyer's responsibility. So this used to be in the old form in the beginning. They moved it to the bottom here. Again, kind of keeping in mind this buyer-friendly environment. But look, 7A, this is critical. A buyer agrees to work exclusively with the broker and not with any other broker unless marked otherwise on page 1. 2, we call this our 12-hour rule. Buyer agrees to furnish broker with relevant data, records, pre-approval. And we say 12 hours from requesting that they'll provide it. And we tell them that so that we can protect their earnest money. Because if they don't continue to work through the process diligently, every hour they could be putting their earnest money at risk. Buyer agrees to be available to examine properties, and we talk about how we can show them virtually and in person. D, buyer agrees to act in good faith. They're not going to lie, steal, or cheat. And then I love the changes that they made to E. New home lot sales. Some sellers, particularly new home subdivisions, open houses, for sale by owners, will not compensate broker unless broker makes the first visit with the buyer. If buyer makes the first visit without broker, buyer agrees to compensate broker as stated in section 3, broker fee. This is, Allie, can I get it up in the air? Allie, I mean, look, they say they don't know. We want to create an environment where they do. This is my least, this page has some things that just, for best experience, this is just saying that the buyer is encouraged to be accompanied by a broker to negotiate on their behalf. those things. Buyer is not party to any active exclusive buyer broker representation. They really cleaned this piece up for me. The first one, this was where my red hair went crazy and Cody got a few calls from me. Looks so much better. Equal housing opportunity, wire transfer warning, really critical conversation. Nevada law applies. Authority and capacity, certainly that people have the authority and that they are mentally able to execute contracts. Cancellation, this piece, you got to see it. Either party may cancel this agreement effective upon delivery of written notice to either party, unless buyer is under contract to purchase. The dates almost don't apply here anymore. They don't matter anymore. Unfortunately, that is the case. We have 2 clauses that we'd like to add in here, and Cody is working. One of them has to do with in the buyer's brokerage agreement. In the old buyer's brokerage agreement, there was a clause for procuring cause, and it went like, hey, I lost it. Hold on, you guys, give me 1 second, and then I'm done. Additional terms. It says a buyer agrees that to the fullest extent allowable under Nevada law, the broker shall be deemed to be procuring cause for any and all successful real estate transactions which arise or originate during the term of this agreement. We'd like to see this added in to the body of the BBRA. However, this is a term that we will be putting in our BBRAs, and I encourage you to do it the same. Gets a lot of the confusion out of the way. With that, I apologize. 7 minutes over. We hope that this has been valuable and that we know there's more to talk about, but we hope that this prepares you to get started. Cody, anything you want to add, friend?
So if you guys are like me, what you're going to find is that the more you learn about this, the more things you think of that you better have figured out in your brain, right? So it's like the little piece of thread on your sweater. You start to pull on it, pretty soon the whole sweater, you got a bare midriff, right? That's what it feels like to me, this whole thing. It's like Pandora's box getting opened. So don't get concerned if that's how you're feeling, because we're going to do follow-up sessions here. Please, everybody on this call, email me and say, what about this situation? Could you please address this? What does the board think about that? Those kinds of things really help us know what you guys will find valuable to share with you. I can tell you that the board of directors is having ongoing communications, meaning when I say board of directors, I don't mean LVR. I mean the Synergy board of directors is having ongoing communications with LVR and with each other in order to make sure that we're unified on this. And, you know, the way we've learned these things the best is by just sort of debating how these things work. And the market will tell us how they're going to work in the long run. In the short run, take the great advice that Denise has given you so far and send us the topics you want us to really dig into more. We have Power 30s and we have Realtor Toolboxes galore that we can do on these things, and we plan to do it.
Yep. And thank you for being part of our community. Like, it matters. And if you found this was valuable, put it in the Synergy chat. We want to see more people showing up to these calls, and it's you saying, hey, this was valuable. It was worth my time. You should check out the next one, watch the videos, find ways that we can support each other. With that, peace out, the Dreammaker. Yes, sir.
There are a few people on here who are not part of Synergy. How do we get them the slide deck?
All they need to do is to text me, and Kay is going to send it out.
Okay.
Or however they got invited here, right? So however that is.
Yep. So anybody who wants the slide deck, just let us know and we'll make sure that we get it out to you.
And all the links will be in there. All right, everyone. See you later. Peace.
Great job, Denise.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.